All right. Thanks for your time. And we are into session 7. Past few weeks, we are talking about AWS S3, and I hope we are able to complete it today. Okay. I'm not sure you guys have any questions at this moment based on our last week's session. If we have any, then you ask me in the last. Okay. Going to next slide. Today, these are the two agenda topic we have. S3 finishing touch and S3 hands-on. We usually having hands-on. Today also we are going to have. And while we are talking about S3 buckets, versioning and other aspect, we must understand the AWS organization also. It is very essential topic for your exam point of view. Also very essential topic for your organization perspective, and also essential for your interview point of view and your job perspective. Okay, so that's why I brought this topic first. So, what is AWS organization? Okay, typically, what is the organization? The organization teams, yeah, it has several departments like human resources, marketing, and the service, several departments within organization. So, like that, similarly, we have in AWS, we have an organization called the AWS organization. Typically, the AWS organization is on account management service. What does that mean? For example, uh, you are a root user, okay, and you are creating multiple users for your organization, okay. So in that case, how you are going to manage your billing for entire users? So far, we discuss about how we are going to create an alarm, billing alarm, okay, how we are going to see the logs, everything in the CloudWatch, right? That is for particular users, okay. Like that, if you want to see multiple users, whatever you have created, okay, you can use AWS organization to see all the information, and you can generate the report from there, and you can pay accordingly. Okay, so this is a centralized infrastructure or services which provided by the AWS. Okay, so AWS organization includes account management. Okay, that means the credit card billing, how much you have to pay, and it better meet the budgetary, security, and compliance needs of your business. Okay, everything is in under your control, regardless of number of users in that organization, whatever you have created. Okay, when you are creating an organization, you are an admin. Okay, so how you are able to see the difference between the admin and other users, I will show you in the practical screens. Okay, you can create accounts in your organization and invite existing accounts to join the organization when you are an admin. Okay, how we are going to create account, or how we are going to invite the existing accounts to join your organization, that I'm going to show you in the practical. To provide additional assurance about your organization identity to AWS account that you invite, your AWS organization is adding a new feature. That means whenever you are adding a new person to your organization, so that means it's a kind of new features which introduced by AWS. You can create as many Amazon accounts. That is, Amazon account means whatever we are talking about, AWS accounts you want. But for each new account creation, you must use the different email address with the different debit credit cards. That you already know that. Okay, we already tried that also. But organization perspective, just you have to understand this concept also. Okay, moving to next slide. How the AWS organization looks like? It looks like this only. Okay, so I hope you are able to see my cursor over here. Okay, master account administrative root. Okay, this is called as a master. Okay, organization control policy called as a OCP. Whenever you are creating an organization, that the OCP is applicable for all the ordered users. Okay, so here organizational unit OU, that is very important. That means you are the you are starting a new startup company, okay, to provide some e-commerce services. Okay, so in that case, as a first user, you have created your own account. Then you want to create three departments. Okay, So one is marketing department, and the another one is research department, and another one is sales department. Okay, all three are organizational unit in your company. Okay, you are creating all three departments like this, so all are called as a organizational unit. Under the marketing, you are creating some AWS account. Okay, under research, you are creating uh, some AWS account. Okay, under sales, you are creating some AWS account. Okay, even down the line, you are creating for that root AWS account, you are creating some other users. Okay, so this is what the organization look like. Okay, for your convenience, I have ordered into development, test, and production, so that all three different organizational units where there are several AWS account underneath with that departments, and more AWS resources are underneath with that AWS account. So the root is actually master here, then the organizational unit, then your AWS account, then AWS user or resources. So these are the straightforward AWS organization slide. Hope we may have some questions we will discuss at the end. Okay, so why we have to create AWS organization, that we saw yeah, slide before, and now we are going to discuss about features. What are the features we have in AWS organization? Okay, first one is centralized management all your AWS accounts. Okay, so whenever you are creating your first account, okay, after that you are adding as many accounts to your organization, so you are able to centralize manage, and you have complete control on the AWS accounts. Okay, consolidate billing for all member accounts. Okay, you are able to generate the billing for each and the individual users on your organization. Okay, you can use the master account of your organization to consolidate and pay for all the member accounts. For example, you have created 120 users for four organization unit, and all the four organization unit under one AWS account. So in the case we have to, you can pay for all 100 plus accounts or users by own. Okay, you can create or you can generate various reports for all the users and accounts. Okay. Next, hierarchical grouping of your accounts to meet your budgetary, security, or compliance needs. Okay. For example, going back to the slide, okay, you want to remove. There are two users because in the sales, in this current scenario, it is going to be down. So you don't want that many resources. Okay, you want to remove two. Yes, you can do that one. Okay, that's what I'm talking about here. Hierarchical grouping of your accounts to meet budgetary. I don't have budget to keep those two resources. Okay, I can remove them. Okay, security. I see some security flaws in that sales unit. Okay, I want to improve that security. Yes, we can. And it's supposed to be compliance whatever we are defining in the organization wide. So all three you are able to define, and that is the major feature in the AWS organization. Okay, so that's what we clearly we have said. You can group your accounts into organization unit that we already discussed, and attach different access policies to each organization unit. For example, I have created a dev test prod over here. Okay, I have created 50 buckets for dev, and test I have created 25, and prod I have created 10, for example. Okay, so all okay. Again, I repeat, 50 buckets here, and consider 25, and I consider is a 10. Okay, so I have created uh, 75 buckets over here. Okay, so whatever the dev has that 50 buckets, the tester cannot access that 50 buckets. Whatever I have 15 buckets here in test. Okay, the dev users may not access all the buckets. Okay, maybe one or two buckets to deploy their code. Okay, or all 15, that is okay, but test they will not uh, accessible these 50 buckets. But regardless of tester or developer, production, it's not open for everyone. They have dedicated access. Okay, these 10 buckets, these two teams cannot access this one. Okay, so you can put separate policies for the production, separate policy for the test, separate policy for the dev, so that whatever the policy is applicable to that relevant organizational unit, only that team member can access related to that policy. I think you got my point, what I'm trying to say. So that's what I meant here. Okay. So we can attach different access policies to each organization unit. Okay, given an example, if we have accounts that must access only the AWS services that meet certain regulatory requirements, we can put those accounts into one organization unit. OU means, don't confuse, it is organization unit as described in the above. You can attach policy to that OU that blocks access to services that do not meet those regulatory requirements. For example, testers, they cannot access to the production environment because you set already some regulatory requirements in that production buckets. You can nest OUs within other OUs to a depth of 5 levels, providing flexibility in how the structure your account group. That means um, going to this previous slide, you can depth of 5 levels you can bring. Okay. So currently we have 4 levels. Okay, master and organization unit, AWS account, and AWS resources. Again, you can create one more level. That's what I mean over here. Right. Continuing the AWS organization features. So you can control over AWS services and the API action to each account can access. Okay. What does that mean? As an administrator of the master account of an organization, um, again, you can use service control policies. Don't think differently SCP. No need to confuse. ACP means it's a service control policies to specify maximum permission to the member accounts in the organization. Okay. So again, going back to this previous slide here, who has the major, that means rights or access, this master, right? Or other than master, anybody else has the next to maximum, that means controls, that also we can see. So, and we can define the access accordingly. Okay. The ACP, that is service control policies, can restrict AWS services, resources, and individual API actions that users roles in each member account can access. Again, you are putting a policy for the different kinds of resources, different kinds of access. You can also define conditions for when to restrict access to AWS services, resources, API actions. Okay, you can predefine conditions. Okay, when cannot they can access one particular AWS services or resources. For example, EC2 instance. Some of the EC2 instance you can access only this time, kind of thing. Okay, these restrictions even override the administrators of member accounts in the organization. That is very important point. Okay, so if you are putting one restriction, okay, you have 5 admins that are AWS organization, that root master can override that one. And when AWS organization block access to service, resource, or API action for a member account, user role in that account can access it. For example, you are a developer. Okay, there is a controversy about your performance or job or your deliverables. Okay, the organization temporarily put on hold on your access. Okay, so that you are not able to access whatever you already had access. Okay, this block remains in effect even an administrator of member account explicitly grants such permission in an IAM policy. Okay, that means even admin has provided the access, still it's been overridden by the your AWS organization. Okay, and continuing the features, help for standardizing tags across resources in your organization accounts. That means you can use the tag policies. For example, the cost center environment or project, you can use such tagging for easily managed accounts. And whenever we are talking about policies and access, everything, that time you have to just think about IAM. Okay, so it is always interrelated or integrated with IAM. Then only you are able to apply some policies or process everything over here. Okay, IAM provides granular control over user and roles in the individual account. Okay, sometimes I'm giving this kind of hyperlink for you, so that if you have any questions, you can just click and go to that website. It redirect to AWS docs.awsamazon.com, so that for your easy reference, wherever it's needed, I have given this hyperlink, so it is easy job to understand more. Okay, even if you are going to use as a PDF also, still this link will work, so you can use accordingly. And granular control over users and roles in individual accounts. That same thing is applicable for the organization, AWS organization also. And AWS organization expands that control to the account level by giving you control over what users and roles in an account or group account can do. It's a straightforward, you're able to understand. Okay, the resulting permission are the logical intersection of what is allowed by AWS. Okay, I think this also you are able to understand. If not, let me know at the end. User can access only what is allowed by both AWS organization policies and IAM policies. Okay, so you have created IAM policy for that particular user, you have granted full access, but your AWS organization, they didn't given access to that certain thing. So still you are not able to access. So uh, keep in mind in the interview question, it is very important to know that this point is very essential. The user can access only what is allowed by both means it's a AWS organization policies and IAM policies. If the user has both allowed permission, then only you are able to access any services related to that. Okay. If either blocks an operation, the user can't access that operation. Either admin or AWS or either one is blocked, it's blocked. Both allowed, you will get the access. So that's what it says, straightforward. Keep with you all any questions we will discuss later. And still we are continuing AWS futures because it's a very important concept. You have to understand, focus on these slides because it's very essential to clear your exam as well as clear your interview and landing your job. Okay, integration with other AWS services, that is very much important because whenever you are creating AWS services, you are able to integrate with other AWS services. That means EC2, S3, or Lambda, whatever services AWS is offering, it is already integrated. So whenever you are creating an AWS organization, the related services will be applicable to that organization, and by default it's integrated. Okay, you need not do any specific things on that one. Okay, the service linked role has predefined IAM permission that allows the other AWS service to perform specific task in your organization. It is also a straightforward. Let me know if you have any questions at the end. Data replication that is eventually consistent. Okay, you already know that AWS is very consistent, and when you are creating AWS organization also, like many other AWS service, it's eventually consistent. Okay, I have underlined eventually consistent for a purpose because it is always eventually consistent whenever you are creating any data and it's replicated everywhere. Okay. AWS organization achieves high availability by replicating data across multiple servers in AWS data centers within its regions. This is also a very important point. Whenever you are replicating data, that time also it is eventually consistent, straightforward. Okay. Before going to the next slide, okay, this is about AWS organization and features, whatever we discussed. Anything you have to pay extra for using AWS organization? No. It is already inbuilt with your other services, so no need to pay any extra. It is a free of cost. Okay, interview point of view, again, keep in mind it's a free of cost for AWS organization. You need not pay anything special. Okay, you may have some questions. Keep with you till the end. Okay, it is a KMS now. KMS, it's a Amazon Key Management Services. What is that key management services? It is a kind of data encryption, I would say. You may be able to see RSA tokens. Okay, the physical RSA tokens in your organization, right? Consider that is called as a KMS. Okay, these days you are able to see Pulse Secure or VPN, whatever it's called. Okay, it is currently have a soft tokens. It is already integrated with your Pulse or VPN whenever they are configuring, right? So, but some situations you need that means a hard key entry. So that time we are able to use some RSA kind of tokens, right? It's a hard token. So consider the KMS kind of hard token kind of thing. Okay, so AWS KMS is a secure and resilient service that uses hardware security module. That's what I mean. Okay, that has been validated under this uh, compliance section are in the process of being validated to protect your keys. Okay, so whenever you are entering your RSA token keys, okay, it is encrypted, right? So and you are whatever you are entering that key, it is kept in the key file, master file, and if it is valid, then it will allow you to enter, or it will throw some error. The key value is not valid like that. That's what we mean here. Okay. AWS KMS is integrated with the AWS CloudTrail to provide you with the logs of all key usage to help meet your regularity and compliance needs, because it's very much important to log all your keys into the cloud trail so that when audit purpose who has access and what they are able to pull the report and they can submit. AWS KMS is a managed service that is integrated with various AWS services. That is straightforward known case. You can use it in your applications to create, store, and control encryption keys to encrypt your data. Yes, like other keys. KMS allows you to gain more control for access to the data that you encrypt. Yes, whatever you are entering, it it will be encrypted. And if you want, you can decrypt and see that. Under this method, AWS KM generates data keys which are used to encrypt data locally in the AWS service or your application. That's very important point. Okay. The data keys are themselves encrypted under the CMK you define. What is that CMK? Okay, customer master key. That's what the definition which I illustrated in the below. Importing key material, create an AWS KMS customer master key with no key material in key management services. Okay, what we are trying to say. Okay, we are going to have one hardware module which like RSA token. There we are able to use encrypt your values whenever you are entering the service. All the service interrelated, and whenever you are entering that RSA token value, it is stored in the cloud trail. And why we are storing in the cloud trail? Because for audit purpose, you have to see the logs, who all are accessing and how they are accessing, when they are accessing, okay, and what they are accessing. So these are the very important things. So one more point here is CMK, that is you can create your own customer master key rather than inbuilt one. So that's what we are saying in this slide. It's a straightforward. Maybe lots of information. I want to give this much of information because every point is very important. But straightforward, whatever I have told you in the brief just now, if you are understanding, that is fine. Okay. Okay. Now this one is how we are getting KMS. Okay. How and where we are using KMS, we are going to see in next 5 minutes in the hands-on. Okay, now you understand how the KMS looks like. Okay, here you have plain text data. You are putting some encryption algorithm and we are seeing the ciphertext. That means it is unreadable format of text. Okay, readable format to unreadable format. Okay, you are using plain text data key in the encryption algorithm. It's a straightforward. Okay. And the next screen is going to talk about a similar thing. Okay, here we are seeing how encrypted data key, that is Clipper text, here is encrypted data key. Here we are using the decryption algorithm. Earlier we had encryption algorithm. Here we are using plain text data key. Okay, he is a customer master key where we are storing in the decryption algorithm. Okay, so here we are using plain text to non-readable format, that we are encrypting that value. Here encrypted value to the plain text we are converting. So you are able to do these two things using KMS. I hope you are able to understand now. Okay, you may have some questions. Keep with you till end. And these are the features we have. Centralized key management, yes, for all the users, whatever you have created. Service integration, yes, all the AWS service, whatever you are using, typically you can use those services. Audit capabilities, yes, because we are storing all the logs into that cloud trail. Scalability, yes. Durability, yes. And highly availability, yes. Because we have 99.999999999 percentage availability. That is, I said correctly 11.9. Okay, and it is secure, no doubt. Even it's a physical hardware and custom key store. You can store uh, this specific key value to in your AWS services, so that you can use always. You can change every time also. You can set up in the configuration. And asymmetric keys, you know what is asymmetric and asymmetric keys. So both the encryption and decryption we can use on this one. So these are the some key features on the KMS. And what is the benefit? Okay, we saw features and what is the benefit of the KMS? Okay, so it is a fully managed, yes, and centralized key management, yes, because whenever you are creating users for your account root user account, okay, you are able to manage for every one of your users. And fully managed means you have complete access for the users, and manage encryption for the AWS services, yes, and encrypt data in your application, yes, and you can also decrypt digitally signed data, yes, you can. There is not much costly service on this one, very few dollars per month kind of thing if you want to go for the KMS. And secure, yes, nobody can hack that service. Complaints, yes, it is already um, complaint following the complaints, whatever the government or AWS is fixed. And built-in auditing, yes, you can create an auditing report anytime. These are the key benefits. And coming to the S3 bucket versioning. So last week we have created a bucket and we placed some files over there. And how we are going to see the versioning for the files that we are going to discuss here. And it is applicable for a bucket. Also, it is applicable for that object, whatever we are creating over there. Okay. So versioning, it means keeping multiple variant of an object in the same bucket. I think you are able to understand, right? So we are putting same file with the multiple versions of that file in that same bucket. For example, you have created one file test123 version 1, and you are updating that document version 2, and you are further updating version 3. Okay, and finally you have updated version 9. Okay, so all the versions you can keep that one in that bucket. And for example, if somehow we are able to not retrieve not in AWS or somewhere, okay, still you are able to get the older version of this file. Okay, so that is the main advantage of versioning here. You can use versioning to preserve, retrieve, and restore every version of every object stored in the Amazon S3 bucket. It's a key point. Okay, so with versioning, you can easily recover from both unintended user actions and application failure. Yes. Okay, so you can go back and pull whatever version you like. In one bucket, for example, you can have two objects with the same key. Yes, but a different version ID, that is very important, such as, for example, photo GIF version 111 and photo GIF version both are allowed. Okay, versioning enabled buckets. Uh, enable you to recover objects from accidental deletion or overwrite. Okay, for example, you have deleted unknowingly, still you are able to recover. Okay, for example, if you delete an object, instead of removing it permanently, Amazon S3 insert a delete marker, which becomes the current object version. You can always restore the previous version. Okay, next, if you overwrite an object, it results in a new object version in the bucket. You can always restore the previous version, which I already discussed. Right. For your convenience, I have provided some pictures over here, versioning enabled over here. And so photo, GIF, whatever I have given the previous example, you have two versions because this bucket is versioning enabled. Photo bucket, if you are not enabled versioning, what will happen? You will see only one copy of this data, only one copy of this file, that also latest file. And a photo bucket, robot, some picture file, PNG file I have mentioned, but you can use this kind of files storing like this. Okay, next, these are the overview of storage, how we are storing and retrieving. So these are straightforward versioning thing. You may have some questions, we will discuss next. Okay, so now we will go to hands-on. Okay, I'm going to aws.amazon.com. I'm signing into their console. Okay, I am logging off this user. Okay, signing root user account. Okay, I think this is our account. Next. Okay, I'm giving password. It's asking multi-factor authentication code. I'm going to Google Authenticator in my smartphone. And my code is about to change. So I'm waiting for 1 second. Sorry, more than 1 second. 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4. It's about to done. Yes, it's changed. It is 185023. So I am able to log in successfully. Okay, here last week we saw in the S3, and we have created these buckets. I think you are able to see. Okay, now I'm clicking this bucket. It's not a public. Okay, the bucket is empty. Next bucket, objects can be public. Okay, here we have an object. Last week we have uploaded this object. Sorry, I don't want to see my face again. Okay, so I have clicked this one, this picture. Okay, I'm just closing this one. Here, actions. You can create new folder, you can upload a new file over here. Regardless of whatever file, you can create a new folder. So in that case, I said subfolder to this folder. What folder currently we are in? Kana AWS 2, that is the folder. If you are creating one more folder here, it is a subfolder to Kana AWS 2. I think you are able to understand what I mean. Okay, and we have files here, and you can download this file, and you can go here action. You can download as what file you can download. You can see the total size, how much it is. Okay, and change storage class. Last week someone was asking this question, if I'm not wrong. Okay, currently I think it is immediate access, instant access, frequently accessed data. Currently, if you want to change, you can change to any of these classes, which we already discussed earlier. Okay, so if you want to change to intelligent tiering, that is long-lived data with changing or unknown access patterns, yes, you can change here, you can move here. Okay, but you have to think about it per object we supply, because it's a intelligent service that AWS is charging more from the customer. And the standard infrequently access data. Okay, so, if you want to move this one, you can move to more than three zones. Okay, so per GB fee supply, but it's not that much of fees, that much of size, so you can use this one, or you can use to one zone. Okay, this one is, what's the difference between these two? It is only goes one zone, but this more than one zone but less than three, but this one is more than three. Okay, and a glacier, okay, this also go for more than three region after 90 days. This a deep archive, that means I don't want this file that much frequently, even like 90 days, then you can move to deep archive. Okay, that also per GB fee supply. Okay, reduced redundancy. Okay, that is typically not recommended for anything, but it's a very rare case we use that one. But in examination point of view also, you will not get any questions, so don't worry about that. You just remember glacier deep archive, because these are the two different terms. And one zone, that is less than less than three and greater than one, and standard infrequently access, that is more than three zone. Okay, so just think about this one. Okay, at this moment um, we are moving to standard infrequent access. So I'm giving save. When you change objects or that last modified data accept, okay, that's okay. I am okay to change that one. Now we have moved to um, that is infrequent access. Okay, you can move to glacier also if you would like to. Okay, like this we will change the storage class, and the further down we already uh, see the make public kind of thing. And if you want, you can rename this file, delete this file, copy file, move file. Okay, for example, if I want to move, I am choosing this bucket to another bucket. Okay, and choose. Okay, and I have chosen that destination and move that file, move to some other bucket. For example, if I see here earlier, I think I can move to AWS 1. Okay, here which one I have moved, I have to see that. Okay, photo one. Okay, for example, if I move this one to different one, so what bucket currently I'm in? Okay, so W2.
Now you move to bucket one, but that bucket one is not public.
Yeah, so here I'm moving to, currently I'm in bucket 2, Kana AWS subfolder. Okay, now I'm moving to some other folder. Okay, same here. Okay, instead of subfolder, I'm moving here and move. Okay, that file is moved from Kana subfolder to main. Okay, earlier only one file was there, now we have two files, right? So that's what we perform these options. And one more important concept I want to tell you. Just now we described about KMS. Okay, so coming to here, change encryption. So I want to put AWS KMS. Okay, so what key you want to choose? I can choose custom uh, ARN. ARN, you know that Amazon resource name, or AWS S3. I am putting that one. All affected objects will change the encryption. Okay, that's fine. So I have changed that encryption. So like that, we can change the encryption also, right? So any other questions I will take at the end. Okay, next one important concept I want to tell you. Okay, here batch operation. So someone, I think Rajesh Subbiya was asking questions related with batch operation, how they can set the batch processing. Okay, so that we are going to see here. Batch operation, you are creating a job, batch job. So you can create either way, here or here. For example, I'm creating here. Okay. One important concept you have to understand when you are creating a job, the job file supposed to be JSON format, not any other format. I repeat, whenever you are creating any batch job, it's supposed to be JSON format, otherwise it will not accept. Okay, so region you are choosing here already in North Virginia, that's okay, but some of the region it is not allowed. For example, Bahrain region. Okay, so don't worry about that. At this point, we are going for creating a batch job. So you can use S3 inventory report manifest.json or CSV file. Typically, we use JSON format, so that is the recommended also. But if you say I have only Excel file, okay, so I want to use that Excel file as a CSV format. Yes, we can, but make sure you have to keep at least 2 to 3 columns in the following order: which bucket you are going to store and which object key you are going to use, and any version ID, that is the optional. Okay, so you have to choose accordingly, but I don't want to go for a CSV because JSON is a little bit faster than CSV file. Okay, so I'm clicking browse S3. Okay, here I think I don't have any JSON file here, but I will step back, coming here. Okay, I have 2 files, but I will go to this subfolder and I have upload one JSON file here. Okay, already I have one file, JSON file in my desktop. Okay, this is my JSON file, employee, where it's gone. Okay, so this is the JSON file. Okay, so you can set timing, everything over here. Okay, to whom you have to send the report, and everything you can uh, mention here. Here, I'm choosing the JSON file. For example, if I'm choosing any other file, currently I'm choosing Word file, some Word file uploading. Okay, but if I'm using this file here, it will not allow. You are able to see here. Okay, batch operation, create job, browse H3. Okay, already I have one file over here. For example, this one. But whenever I choose here, it says it throws some error when I'm pressing next. Okay, so the manifest object must have JSON extension for an S3 inventory report format. Okay, so that's what I meant. Okay, now we have to upload file, JSON file. I'm going here. Okay, I'm deleting this one. Okay, I will delete later. I'm uploading one file, JSON file, odd file. Employee data, that is the JSON file. Next. Okay, so I have uploaded JSON file. Okay, now I'm coming back to that batch process. Okay, here batch operation, create job, and I'm using same S3, browse S3. I think I kept my file over here in the subfolder and this JSON file. Now you will not get that error when you are pressing next. Okay, so here this one is optional. but if you want, you can enable. But at this moment, I'm keeping optional. So the JSON file taken because it's a JSON format. Okay. Now, what type of operation you want to perform? Okay, anything you can do. Okay, for example, if I'm setting uh, place a restore. Okay, so every 90 days I have to do this one. Okay, I can set up this one for 90 days. You have to write that one into the JSON script. Okay, so JSON script already I show you how it looks like. There you have to specify the day, number of days. Okay, so at this moment, just I want to copy that one. And when I'm clicking copy, it is asking the destination, which folder to which folder you want to copy. Okay, I want to copy to this folder. Okay, currently I didn't enable versioning in that object. Okay, so that uh, folder, okay, I'm enabling versioning. Okay, versioning has been enabled over here. Okay, and I'm going for the frequent access data over there. And server-side encryption you want to do, yes, for more security. What? Okay, in that case, what kind of security you want? Just now we saw KMS, KMS managed customer master key, or you want to go for S3 managed encryption. Okay, you can choose whichever comfortable. But at this moment, I'm going with S3 and copy existing tags. Yes, instead of replacing all those things and copy existing metadata. Instead of that, I will keep replace because every time I'm replacing that file. And what are the permissions I'm giving? Read or write, object access control language, that is the ACL. I'm giving two rights, and for read access only for this object. Clicking next. Whenever I'm clicking replace all, replacing all metadata, I have to choose what defined data and key I have to use. So I have just giving some value. Okay, so it's accepted. Okay, so this is the configuration additional options. If you want, you can do this one. Okay, you can choose generate completion report every time, so that as soon as it's the job is done, you will get the report. And next, okay, where you want to place your report, I will place this folder. Okay, IAM role, what role I am going to choose? I'm going to use S3 admin because I have access to that S3 bucket. So next, okay, these are the things we have chosen all the KMS related things. Sorry, all the batch related job. So I'm done. So I'm creating a job. Okay, successfully created job ID. This one, this time, the time it takes to prepare a job is based on the size of the job manifest and the time required to complete higher priority jobs. Okay, so we have successfully created a batch job. Like that, if we have 1,000 users, okay, IAM users, you want to create 1,000 users in the same time, yes, you can use these batch operations instead of creating one by one. So this is about creating the batch job. Okay, so currently we have created one batch job, so you are able to see here. And if you click here, you are able to see more detail. And this is the newly created job. So we are using put copy. Okay, if you want to retrieve, then get copy. But we are just uh, copying one place to another place. That's the operation we are performing here. We have created the state. So total objects not yet available because just now we have created percentage complete 0 because just now we have created total failed rate 0 because it's just started running yet. Okay, priority it's 10. You can change that priority anytime clicking that job, right? Okay, so access analyzer. So that's what about batch operations. Next, access analyzer for S3. This one, how it is going to be S3 and how frequently we can access. So it's kind of report generation. So timely at this moment, it's not available. You can choose a various region and you can just download report, but it's not, you need not care about, because AWS already care about that. Block public access content, by default it is block all public access, but if you want to edit, you can edit and provide that you can save changes, but at this moment I leave it at this point. So these are the S3 features spotlight. All right, so still I have to cover AWS organization. I think it will take next 30 minutes. I don't want you to spend that much of time. Okay, now I'm open for the questions.
Okay, this is Suresh. I'll start. So you talked about batch processing here, right?
Mhm.
So do we have some kind of workflow management within AWS?
Yes.
Okay, if so, can it be integrated with outside workflow management, just like Control M?
Yes, but it's supposed to be through JSON file.
Okay. Okay. So the next question is, you showed us the files, that has to be stored in S3
Mhm.
should be in JSON, right?
Mhm.
So if I want to read the JSON file, I cannot use SQL, right, directly, or do you have any tools in AWS that you can put it over S3 and do this SQL, or does it have to be parsed?
Okay, so correctly understanding your question. So you have a JSON file. You have to read that JSON file through SQL Server. So you want to put SQL Server in the S3,
No,
and
I'm not saying SQL Server on it. I'm just saying like if if I want to give an example, if I have Hadoop, right, I can use Hive on top of it.
Mhm.
Um, so do you have anything that can sit on the JSON file as an interface so that we can use SQL to read it?
no, what is the purpose?
Purpose is like if I want to convert it and load it in, say, RDS. I'm just giving an example.
Mhm.
So how will you do it?
Okay, so you want to read JSON file.
So say for example, you talked about machine learning, right? Um, right now we have actuarial department. I'm in the insurance industry. They know only SQL. They don't know anything Python or anything like that, Java or anything, right? How do I enable those users to read JSON files stored in S3?
Okay, so it's a straightforward. If they want to use, if they want to see the JSON directly, they can read. It's a readable form. Okay, but you can use some XML schemas. Okay,
Mhm.
to read this file and give us a website form, HTML form.
Okay.
Okay, so that, for example, if you are able to see live location here, right? So that is the tag we are using. So
Right.
they may confuse what is that kind of thing, right? So when you are converting into the XML tags and XML file, when you are using that XML into the web browser, they are able to see only these informations rather than all this information.
Okay.
So
So
to answer
right
your
now,
question,
what
yeah.
right now what we do is we take the JSON file, parse it, and load it in a SQL table, right, in order to do
Mm-hmm.
a SQL read.
Okay.
So I was thinking there is something that parses it automatically.
Yes, yes, it's available in the MongoDB analyzer.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we may start MongoDB next week or so, or followed by next week, or followed by next week. That time we
Okay.
are able to see how it's going to be. But at this point, to answer your question, yes, such services are available in AWS also. And second
Okay.
one, if you want to read this JSON file, such as they don't have experience on any of these things, like your customer, you can convert them into XML and you can open in the web browser. It will give only the relevant information.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes. So one last question about AWS org hierarchy. So I believe that can be used for billing also, right? If I am a holding company and I have 4 verticals, and I can create 4 separate accounts, and can use for billing purposes too, right? I can leverage that for billing also, right? To
I
charge
believe,
back to clients, to the customers.
yeah,
for
I
charging
believe,
back.
yeah, I believe that's what I told in that session. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, this is Vivek. A quick basic question on that topic, as the previous gentleman asked, on the hierarchy. A very basic question, must be easy for you. So you said AWS account and AWS user. Are those two different things?
Yes.
What is the difference, if I may ask?
Okay, so you are creating, you already have one root. For example, don't go for master and all. Okay. For example, you have created a root user account. Okay. So, and you are creating 4 more users. Do you think that users, whatever you have created and your root user is same?
I'm new to AWS. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's all a question out of my ignorance. Go ahead.
No. What I'm trying to say, both are two different, because those 5 users, whatever you have created, you are controlling them.
So even on the layer of AWS account, user account, there are sub levels where you can create a sub users. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I will go back to the slides and I will make your life easier. I think you're able to see my screen, right?
I do.
Okay. So these are the master account, right? The master account can control all these 3 people: dev, tester, and prod. Correct?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So these 3 people cannot control this one. You agree?
I do. Yeah.
That is the difference.
No, I'm actually pointing to the layer 2 rows that you're having as AWS account and AWS resource. So when you were talking about those 2 layers, you said AWS account, and for AWS users, you said AWS users and other applications. So my question was, what is the difference between? I was assuming AWS account is same as AWS users. Is that not true?
AWS account, you can create a AWS user. Okay, AWS user cannot create AWS account.
So the account and users are 2 different things in this context.
Yeah, for example, you are a lead to a development team. Okay, your privileges is different from your subordinate.
So then can I understand, like, account is again a user, which is of a master user, and any user you can create underneath it to have a control over it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And on that topic, you said this hierarchy can even be stretched to another layer. What would that be like? In what scenario?
Okay, so you are saying one more layer? I didn't get your question. Sorry.
Yes, you said even after AWS resources, we can stretch hierarchy to further left, right? So like what? In what scenario? What would be that like?
Okay, consider okay, you are in the development team. You are a dev lead. Okay, underneath you are a senior developer. Underneath you are creating one developer role.
So it's again further stretching a user hierarchy. Okay,
right.
Fine,
exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have one. So can you talk about what zones are in the storage class? I don't understand what the zones are, you said.
By now, who is this?
This is Deepthi.
Okay, so what's your question? So storage class, whatever we shown, there are several types. Okay. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, so like I don't understand what zones are in that. Like there's like zones.
Okay. For example, you have Virginia region, Ohio region, correct?
Okay.
So like that, zones, which we explained in the first class. Do you want me to explain again?
No, I wasn't there in the first class. Today is my first, so
Okay.
it's maybe watch the videos if they're available.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so
But yeah,
there are,
just what
yeah.
she's asking fundamental question is, there is no relationship between region and the storage class, right? Region is by the geography, which you were explaining, and she also got it like Virginia or, other 3 areas within that. But storage class is something that's fast accessible and lesser accessible and slower accessible and very occasionally accessible. So these two are kind of parallel, right? So maybe that's what she's trying to ask. Maybe you can just explain it in
No,
words.
no. So her question is, what is zone? Correct?
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
question.
So she came to that question from that storage class perspective. When we say more than 3 region, it will store more than 1 region, but less than 3 region, it will store. So that's what her question, correct?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just understand the
Yeah.
zones.
Yeah, actually, zone means typically we are talking about availability zones where it's a logical building blocks that makes within that AWS region. Okay, AWS region means we have, as I said, several regions in the global. Okay, currently at 69 availability zones within that region. All are isolated locations, data centers within that region. So it's a kind of data center, consider.
Okay.
Okay, if you are saying more than 3, then it is more than 3 data centers is going to be stored.
Okay, so it basically depends on the company.
Yeah, not company, what storage class you are choosing.
Yeah, like basically the company would only choose the storage classes if they have something to do with the region. Right?
No. So how you want to store your data? Okay, it's an infrequent access or glacier or 1 zone or 3 zone. What kind of type you want to choose? Okay, based on that, this zone will come into this picture.
So why would they choose? What's the difference between choosing 1 and 3? Like why would people select different types?
Okay, so you want to, your data is more secure and you want to replicate more than 3 regions. Okay, for example, you are running a streaming company. This example already given, but boring. Still, I'm giving. So you have South America and North America, and in South America, where Brazil has some festival, and you are running a streaming service, and you want to give one special program only to that Brazil area. Okay, then that time you are using only one region, correct?
Yeah.
But the same thing you want to give the entire North America and South America, then you are giving more than one region, correct? If you want to give only Asia and North America and South America, three regions, correct?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, that's what when I said, like if like that company operates in those different regions, then they would probably need to have these data.
Still it is different. Okay, how you want to store your data, how you want to replicate, that's what you will choose.
Okay.
Right.
Satya, this is Rajesh. Quick question. So we saw that online, when you are doing enable versioning, right? So when you suspend versioning, what situation we are doing the suspend the version, and what will happen to the object and what will happen to the bucket?
Okay, so when you are suspending, okay, your storage limit is going to decrease because of number of versioning in that same file. Okay, per se you already have 1000 version on a single file. Okay, it's a large file, so it is going to be overfill. So you want to say, I don't want the versioning anymore. Whatever the file I have, that is sufficient. Okay, you are disabling that versioning. Okay, once you disabling the versioning, what will happen to that object whenever you are uploading a new object? Okay, that old object will be replaced by the new object. Okay, that's what is going to happen. But bucket perspective, whatever you are going to upload other objectives, there will be no versioning will be maintained.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Hey, Satya, this is Vivek. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, Suresh again. It's an extension of what Rajesh asked. So if I have two versions of the same object left, and when I'm doing the second, when I'm storing it and I'm suspending the version, my second version will be overlaid and the first remains there, or is it going to disappear?
It will be there.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Vivek again. This question pertained to the KMS. So I know when you did the hands-on, you chose to do the S3 inbuilt security. But if we chose the custom KMS, the key that you will choose, is that supposed to be unique every time, or is that supposed to comply to any standards that's unique on the organization level?
Yeah, it is supposed to be compliant with that organization level, and that organization level you can define. You can use the similar key all the time, or every 30 days you have to change kind of compliance.
So does that mean a single organization, AWS organization, must have just one or some defined set of keys? Or there is no limit?
Different set of keys for the different kinds of organization you need within that AWS organization.
Okay. Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Thank you. You did. Thank you.
Okay.
So Satya, this is Jay Kumar. So this is a question related to the last week hands-on we did. So what I did, I created a bucket, and under the bucket I added one file, and then it was not a public. When I was creating the bucket, it was not public. So after adding an object, I went back to the bucket and I made that the bucket as a public. Okay, then I was then I went into the bucket and I made the individual object as make public. So I was able to do the make public, and I was able to access it from other Internet Explorer without any keywords. Okay, then I came back and I did that. I removed that public access for the bucket. Then still I was able to access that individual object from the Internet Explorer. So my question is, if you remove the public access of a bucket, it automatically remove the objects under that bucket, right? That public access it should automatically remove, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That is not happening. So still I'm able to access that object in the Internet Explorer.
Yeah, this is nothing related with the AWS. Actually, whenever you are accessing the Internet Explorer, that cookies and history has been stored in that file.
Okay.
Once you remove that cookies and the history, then if you try to access again, then you will get an error.
Thank you.
You try today and let me know.
Yeah, sure.
Satya, this is Rajesh again. I have two questions. One is when, this is back to 2 weeks before when you created the IAM user, when you assign the roles, right, is it kind of a real time? Do you have to run any kind of bad jobs to give access to the permissions, everything to the user, or is it real time? You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's a real time. My answer is yes, both. You can run a batch job to create number of users, and you can set the permissions over there in the JSON file, and you can set that batch job to execute that one so that it will be given real time.
Okay. My second question is a basic question to understand myself. And when you procure AWS Cloud first time, does it comes with all the services enabled, or how that is?
Yes, all the services will be enabled by default.
Okay, so this is all pay per use, right?
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, Satya, Jay Kumar here. So I tried to remove the cookies and I tried to access it. It's giving error.
Okay, so it's working, right?
Yeah, correct.
Good.
Satya, the answer for Jaykumar, this removing cookies, probably that's one answer. And is there another way, another view that the permission, public permission, when you removed, if it is in multiple zones, it takes a little bit of time to coordinate across. So until that time, that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it would still have access. Is that possible like that?
Yes, but it will not take that much of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
I thought it was up to an hour or so.
It depends on the region. For example, you have one region, for example, in extreme, that means I would say in South Africa, okay. So due to some reasons, we are not able to access that region. That time it may take some time, but typically it will not take that much of time. But I would say 5 to 10 minutes. Ideal depends on the region, I would say.
Yeah, perhaps. I think Jaykumar might have gone through that. You might have tried immediately. Probably if you had tried another 15 minutes later, maybe it might have thrown error at that time itself. Okay, great. Thanks, Satya, for explanation. As always, it is very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
Dhamma, even if it does, Dhamma, even if it doesn't work, just restart the Windows.
Hey, Satya, when you copy the files from one bucket to another bucket, right? If there is no permission means, do we get an error message saying that we cannot copy it, or what is the status of that copy?
You will not get any error message, but if you give the public access to that bucket, then you are able to see that copied file over there.
Oh, it will be copied anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah, Satya, one more question. Like this is not related to AWS. You said like there are some job market related things for Python and R programming. So who is the demand for AWS? If there is 100 openings, how many profiles for AWS in your analysis? What is your?
Okay, so if 100 job in AWS related, then you are able to see 90 profiles. Out of 90 profiles, 50 profiles are fake profiles. They're showing 5 years, 10 years of experience. But honestly speaking, only 25 profiles are valid profiles are available for 100.
Okay, and that 90 are all solution architect certified from AWS?
Solution architect, very few. If you have 100 opportunities for solution architect, you are able to see just 17 to 18. But for DevOps perspective, if you have 100 opportunities, you are getting 105 profiles like that. So DevOps mostly from the college grads.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions?
Thank you, Satya. Very useful this session too.